Centralizing, buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgive. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Games Ron Stevens. This is October the 11th, 2015, Thanksgiving Sunday up here in Canada stand. And so after the show, I guess I'm going to head out for a turkey dinner at my sister's place, which should be fun. Anyways, I thought I was going to have Santos Bonacci on the show today, and I was kind of looking forward to it because he's kind of an interesting character. But it doesn't appear that's going to happen today. So maybe we can get him on another day. I thought we had him scheduled for today. I got the go-ahead the other day when I was talking to him, but for whatever reason, I got a no-show here. Now, it could have been a bit of confusion there. Who knows? Could be this. He's in Australia. Could be this time slot is not good. But I would really like to talk to the guy because I'm most definitely not a New Ager, and I find it quite curious, the whole New Age movement. And I know Santos has quite a following, and I know he just got out of jail for contempt of court. And I thought it would be a very interesting show. I know he's a highly intelligent man, as a lot of these New Agers are. But I would like to have a good conversation because these people are highly intelligent, but they seem awfully confused, or they're not confused. That's what I'd like to find out. And if they are confused, well, hopefully I can set them straight. And if they aren't confused, well, then maybe they can explain what they're doing out there running around, spewing off all this New Age stuff. And, it doesn't even make any sense, New Age. Yesterday was yesterday, today's today, that's your New Age. Every day is a New Age. And as far as the controllers of the planet are concerned, they just continually change ages. And it's not a New Age, it's just simply their rebranding of the slavery that they've held us under forever. So, people, we're going to a New Age. Well, no, you're just going to a deeper form of slavery. That's all you're going to. So, there's nobody coming from outer space to save your butts. And, there's these lizard people and all this kind of stuff. You know, I find it absolutely fascinating. I don't spend much time on it. I looked at it years ago, and it's just mental confusion, mental chaos, and out of chaos comes order, says the big boys. So yeah, I would really like to get Santos. I find him one of the more interesting people. Link what time. Let me just, I gotta get this through here. Yeah, maybe we can get Santos on yet. Friend of mine who set me up with Santos there is just sending me some Skype messages here, so hopefully maybe we can get him on. In the meantime, let me see here. We'll anyways, let me see where I'm at here. I may have pulled a boner yesterday, which I'm going to have to rectify. Somebody sent me a link to a PDF that I put in the chat last night, which was I think it was called 2020, and then it was a combination of two books or something, and the anti-communitarianism book. And I put that up on my Facebook site, and I thought this was a freely distributable PDF, and so I put that up just before showtime last night, and I just looked at my Facebook before I came on air, and I'm getting kind of spanked. So I'll have to rectify that, but I can't do that right now. I'll have to wait till after the show. Apparently the book is written by a mother and daughter out of Alaska, and I thought it was a freely distributable PDF, but I guess they're trying to sell the book, so I'll have to put a notice on that. It's an extremely, it's 300 and some pages. I did a really fast scroll through it last night before I came on air, and you know, I highly recommend this to everyone. And so what I'm going to do is get a hold of the authors and see if I can get permission to at least publish part of it. I have it on my blog now. I have it on Facebook. I didn't realize it was I didn't realize it was not freely distributable. I get sent stuff all the time, and my mistake, apparently. So, but I am going to contact the authors of this book up in Alaska, because I would really like to get these people on the show. And it's an amazing, what I saw of it, and the research I've done on the over the years. What I see here in this double publication is a well-rounded, easy-to-read compilation of the facts and what we're facing. And everybody needs to read it. Now, whether you have to buy it to read it, so be it. But it needs to be read, because that will take so much confusion out of people's minds as to exactly what the game plan is and who the players are and why we're in the position that we're in. So hats off to the two ladies, apparently the mother and daughter, that wrote this double publication. And so I'll have to get a hold of them, because I don't know if I ruffled anybody. It wasn't my intention to ruffle anybody's feathers, never is. But it's important that we get this information out to people. and I'll get a hold of them hopefully today, and try to work out some sort of a situation for them. I know when the guys, the two young guys from St. Catharines, Ontario, did the video, "Oh Canada, our bought and sold out land," they did an amazing job of uncovering the banking system here and everywhere else. And two young dropouts just started asking questions. That's the whole basis of everything. You got to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, then you don't have to go find an answer. And that's why when you were in school, you were encouraged not to ask questions. And if you did ask questions, keep them in a very narrow, basically it doesn't matter band. But don't ask any pertinent questions that might ruffle anybody's feathers, or require a deeper look at the question itself and the answer. So I know those guys put that video out. They worked very hard on it. They got interviews with the top politicians in the country at the time, and it was a rather amazing expose. And I know they put it out to sell, and I think they were doing it more on they were selling the DVD, but once this thing got loose, it's more like a donation situation like that. So I'm going to ask the ladies that wrote the book if maybe, because it's so freaking important that people get this information, maybe I can cut a deal with them where they will allow the distribution of it on a option of buy or donate kind of thing, because obviously I'm not the first one to pass this PDF around. It was sent to me, so I don't know how prevalent it is on the internet or how many sites have it up. So those that are yelling at me over on Facebook, lighten up. And I do apologize to the two writers of the book, or the ones that put it together, because there's a lot of input from other people in it. So we'll get dealt with that. But whether you buy it or whether you find a PDF somewhere, that particular piece needs to be read by everybody. And I know a lot of people go, 370 some pages. Are you nuts? Because most people, by the time they get out of school, they don't want to read anything. They were bored to death with what they were forced to read while they were in school. And that's part, again, of the school system. Therefore, you don't go looking for knowledge because you don't want to read anything, and that's unfortunate, and that is part of the deal to keep people subdued. You can't have wisdom without knowledge, and you're not going to get knowledge without reading something. So it's integral. It's very important that people read these publications. And like I said, from what I saw of it, it is about as good as I've ever seen on the subject. It embraces the community police. It ties Agenda 21, community thought, environment thought. It really ties it all into one big bundle, which is I can't even say that word. I can't say that for some odd reason. Anyways, that's what it is, communitarianism, and people need to understand what that is, because that's really the vessel or the bowl, if you will, that all of this other stuff is put into and spread throughout your neighborhoods and your communities and your schools and your churches and your politics and your bureaucracies. And there's so many separate entities that make the whole in this case, and people need to wrap their brains around it and deal with it, because we're going to win or we're going to lose, and if we're running scattered or in chaos or confused or fighting against each other because we think that this isn't connected to that, and this group's fighting against that group, not understanding that all these groups are controlled by the same people at the top. So, yeah, let's get that out of my way. Now, I got a note here that it's 3 a.m. in Australia, and that Santos is presently offline, and he sent again my Skype hookup, which he hasn't hooked up with yet. So, so I guess we're not going to get Santos on today, which is unfortunate because I was really looking forward to that. Now, I guess I'm just going to. I may go through part of that that book here in a bit, and just try to perk your interest. That maybe somebody will go buy it or whatever. But I think they're going to probably be better off moving that book through donation packages and that. I think they would probably get more books out. But we'll talk with them and see what we can get. Now, just before I came on air, I see a couple of police were wounded last night in Ontario and in a shootout here, and you see, so they're heroes, but the people that are mentally ill or depressed, who are standing in the driveways with butter knives or whatever, that are beside themselves for whatever reason, it's okay that they get shot, but if somebody takes a shot at a policeman, then the police instantly are put up as heroes, and that really irritates me, by the way. Anyways, I'm going to do this story really quickly. 2 Niagara regional police officers were shot Saturday night while responding to a report of a suicidal man at a Fenwick apartment building. One man has also been shot in the incident that unfolded at Canberra Gardens at the corner of Balfour Street. Pelham firefighters were dispatched at 7:42 p.m. to assess police who were advised the man was inside an apartment with firearms and ammonium nitrate. Tribute reporter John Firminger arrived on the scene just past 8 p.m. when an officer parked about a block away said additional police were being called in to close nearby roads. And about 15 minutes later, multiple gunshots were heard coming from inside the apartment building. One officer was then seen running into the middle of Carver Road, where he dropped to his knees. "I've been shot." He was heard yelling, "I've been shot." Now, I don't know, and I don't want anybody, don't get me wrong here, I don't want anybody getting shot. But how many videos of people run across or people posted, like the family of that black guy who was stopped for a traffic stop? I see his family were given, what was it, $6.5 million or something, but that doesn't bring back your loved one. No amount of money can bring back your loved one. I mean, that was a clear case of cold-blooded murder when that black man was running away after this traffic stop, and, he was just assassinated. And then the cop tried to cover it up. Now, this is one cop, I guess, has been fired from the force and charged with murder, which he should have been. But, I've seen videos where a family calls the police because, their son has been, marked as whatever, mentally ill, which they want everybody marked as mentally ill, and they put them on these crazy drugs. And so, the kid or the young man's having a bad time. Family calls the police because they think the police will come and help them, and then the police come and shoot their freaking son. And nobody seems to bat an eye. But I'm sure they're going to play this up because, it's very dramatic. The policeman runs out of the building. "I've been shot," as he drops to his knees. "I've been shot." He's ours, called one of the emergency responders on the scene. I've been shot in the shoulder, the officer yells. Moments later, more gunshots could be heard. Welcome to Canada, folks. Not long after, several police cruisers, detectives, emergency taxi unit vehicles converged on the one-time high school building. SIU has been turned into apartments. SIU officers overheard talking, indicated the injured suspect at one point was in a hallway. Welland staff Joe Picton, speaking by phone, confirmed just before 10:30 the two officers were shot and that the suspect had also been shot. I don't know if it's self-inflicted at this point. He's gone to the hospital, Picton said of the suspect. Two officers are also taken to hospital by ambulance. It's not clear which hospitals the three have been admitted to. Names have not been released. The chief said, just more than an hour after the incident, tweeted out the following statement: thanks to everyone for their thoughts and prayers as we deal with two officers injured on duty in the Welland Division tonight. A few details were released by police Saturday night. Dozens of prayers and well wishes for the injured officers and their families were posted on Facebook, Twitter, yada, 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 including from residents, other police forces, and paramedics and firefighters. Police said the officer shot in the shoulder was struck in two other places and that the other was shot in the foot. Police Saturday night said the officer who sustained multiple was undergoing surgery. Prior to the shootings, the quiet village seemed like a typical cool fall night. One man who was among several people who slowly emerged from their homes after the shooting, who watched from the corner of the streets, remarked that his family was inside preparing for next day's Thanksgiving dinner. Well, that's nice to know. It was unclear whether the residents had been evacuated from the apartment building, but only a few people could be seen earlier. The province's Special Investigations Unit, which investigates police incidents involving injuries to officers and civilians was has involved its mandate. An SIU van and trailer pulled up to the scene around 11:50 p.m. At that point, police had cordoned off much of the area with yellow police tape. Traffic was detoured. Police then told the Welland Tribune no other information would be made available for the night. The SIU said in a release just after midnight that it has assigned 6 investigators and 3 forensic investigators to the case. So I don't know what's going to come out of this because the police, police to police, they're outside the reach of the government. The SIU is supposed to investigate incidences of when someone is shot by the police or their arms or legs are torn off by the police or they're burned to a significant portion of their body or the police rape somebody. So what the SIU is allowed to investigate is a very narrow band, of which doesn't happen very often. I don't know of any cases here where the SIU's had to investigate because a police or several police have ripped an arm or leg off somebody. I don't recall any cases like that, and I don't recall any cases where the police have been accused of burning anyone to a significant part of their bodies. And we have had a few rape cases. In fact, we had the SIU investigate a rape case at our courthouse, local courthouse here, a year or two ago, and they were at my home, and they made it very specific that they don't really have a lot of use for the police because, again, the police. And the SIU has given such a narrow band of investigation. It's really more like a smoke screen that they give people the idea that somebody is out there keeping an eye on the police, which for all intents and purposes is not true. Anyways, I hope that everybody that got shot gets better, and I hope they give pause, but unfortunately flattery goes a long way. So now all these prayers and everything are pouring in for the officers, and they will be held up as some sort of heroes, and instead of these policemen taking time and pause to what exactly it is they're up to in too many instances, that would just flatter them and empower them mentally, that people love them and everything they do can be justified, which it can't. We see this all the time happening. So, anyways, another story here that kind of throws me, and I've warned people about this for a long time, okay? While we are complaining about politics in our respective lands and we complain about a lot of stuff, most of it is superficial. It's on the surface stuff. It's not what's going on behind. And, the member states, which are basically every country on the planet, have been working with the United Nations to help implement their programs of global slavery. And one of the things that's really been a lot going on in the background is, and you can just Google this, I mean, you'll come across more information you shake a stick at, is the environment. Because, of course, it's the environment that is putting the entire planet at risk. So what we have is we have a whole gutload of international environmental lawyers writing up legalese on how to stop this absolute destruction of Mother Earth. And, I've said it before, the way they're setting this up is because it's a global problem, needs a global solution, needs international law, which supersedes the laws of your own land. So somebody somewhere can write some ridiculous law pertaining to something in their particular environment, and it becomes a global law. And this is a real problem, because people are getting locked down. I mean, they're coming up with more bylaws all the time, what you can and you can't do where you live, and they're just tightening the screws on you. So there's a story here, and it's called Seeing Red in India's Mean Green Court. India's National Green Tribunal may be the world's toughest environmental court, and it's on a collision course with Narendra Modi, whoever that is, but we'll take a look at this story quickly. New Delhi. The judge was disgusted, the story starts off. 4 bureaucrats stood meekly before him, their heads bowed. In May, he had ordered them to inspect the damage wrought by development near an ecologically sensitive lake bed in Bangalore. Now, everything is sensitive now, okay? If it's on the planet, it's sensitive. It's already been labeled sensitive. So it doesn't matter where you are, you're in a sensitive ecological zone. But anyways, this is one of India's fastest growing cities, but the report left the judge far from impressed, and he's a green judge. We are totally displeased with your work, Judge Swanantar thundered recently, eliciting gasps across the courtroom. We didn't write this 110-page order last time, so that we made a mockery of. He flung the file across the desk. Even if one more brick is laid, he warned, we will order all of the buildings to come down. He's the chairman of the National Green Tribunal, a green tribunal in India. And those green tribunals are spreading across the planet. It's a green court. You see, in the old days, in the good old days, back in the day, long, long time ago, law was law. And law was based on some pretty simple principles. And the main principle of law was to do no harm. And that encompassed contract law, okay? That encompassed criminal law. It was all the law. And the basis of it was do no harm. And if you haven't done any harm, then you haven't created a victim. And if there's no victim, obviously there has been no crime. That was back in the day. Well, the bankers and the lawyers and the kings and the queens, they want control of your butt. And so they came up with their legal system. They're amoral system. And so whatever they pass in the legislature is given the color and force of law. And now we have a new court, which is the Green Court. Now, we have a guy not far from me who, we were in court for some ridiculous stuff, not due to the environment, but we were being, it was an intimidation game by the police and some corporations and that. But there was a gentleman not far away from me who had a contract to plow the roads in the wintertime. And he had his own shop and everything. And he's out in the farm. And he changed the oil in the trucks. And it was handed, I think, a $30,000 or $40,000 ticket for what they, said wasn't changing the oil in an environmentally friendly way or something. And that apparently in the contract he was supposed to change the oil at the municipal yard or their buildings, and so he did it at his buildings and got this ridiculous ticket. And this is what we have to worry about. Okay, it's not going to be any longer about. I mean, you're still going to get hammered for distracted driving. You're going to get hammered for seatbelt rules. You're going to get hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered. But now they're going to hammer you with the green courts. Okay, and there can be no mistake what these are about. Okay, if they pass any law anywhere on the planet, it's transferable to your neighborhood. And you're bound by it. And it doesn't matter how ridiculous the law is, it's what they say, the law. And of course, the police always say, well, we have an obligation to ticket you because you broke the law. Well, the law is ridiculous. Well, that's not for us to determine. That's for the courts to determine. If you accidentally step on a toad or something, I suppose, or God forbid you're mowing your lawn and you run over a frog or something, you could find yourself in some serious trouble, because who is the enemy of the earth? Well, humans are. They're a plague upon the earth. So they're going to tie your ass down any way they can. Anyways, back to this story. Let's see here. Kumar is the chairman of the National Green Tribunal, which has become a major arbiter in some of the most pivotal environmental battles in India since being established 5 years ago. The Green Court, known for its speed in a judicial system that otherwise moves at a glacial pace, has taken on more than 10,000 cases in the last 5 years, weighing in on air pollution, trash collection, mining, toxic dumps, dam projects. And since its beginning, 5 years ago, has resolved about 2/3 of the cases. The stakes are incredibly high. India's population explosion, which again creates the population explosion, is more humans on the planet, and they're a detriment to the planet. So we got to do something about it. Anyways, India's population explosion and economic growth have left cities clouded by toxic air, rivers green with pesticides, and forests decimated by development. The National Green Tribunal's widening influence comes at a time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to ease the cumbersome process of environmental approvals to attract more investment, an effort that has led to clashes between the government and the judiciary. In May, Environment Minister Javadkar called the Green Court's orders extreme and unimplementable. Others, however, see the court as a bulwark against the rampant growth and a defender of the environment. The Green Tribunal is now the epicenter of the environmental movement in India, said an environmental lawyer. It has become the first and last recourse for people because their local governments are not doing the job of protecting the environment. See, it's all about that environment. And these laws are being passed daily all over the frickin' planet. And they're moving in here now, quicker and quicker. I mean, this idea, I mentioned this whenever, Thursday night or whenever I mentioned it, that someone I know was had a bylaw officer come up, and because they had a truck in the driveway that wasn't plated, this somehow is a humongous problem for the world, and that he has to either dispose of it or get a current plate on it. And that happened to my brother and my sister's boyfriend probably 5 years ago in London, Ontario. But see, it happens in the cities first. And same thing, he had a 69 Mustang that he didn't have on the road. The car's in extremely good shape. He just didn't have it plated. And same thing happened. A bylaw officer comes up and says, you can't have that. And the people say, what are you talking about? It's our driveway. Well, it's not really your driveway. It's the Queen's driveway. And so we made up this rule that you can't have an unplated vehicle, because if you have an unplated vehicle, obviously you didn't buy a plate, and therefore you're taking money out of our pocket. So either dispose of it or give us some money. It's all about money, 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 money. Give us some money. So there's a whole gutload of money to be made for the lawyers and the courts through these new environmental laws. And the more environmental laws they can put up, the more money there is to be made, and the tighter you get tied down. So let's see. On most days, the tribunal's courtroom looks like a classroom acting as a disciplinarian. Spank, stand in the corner, write on the chalkboard, I will not pollute, I will not pollute, I will not leave a car in the driveway without a plate on it, so on and so forth. The retired Supreme Court judge sits with 4 colleagues on a bench that towers over rows of case files stacked on the floor. It is in his thin voice, Kumar relentlessly admonishes the lawyers and bureaucrats who appear before him. Recently took on an official supervising cleanup of the Ganges River. Many Hindus believe that the waters of Ganga cleanse them of their sins. Do you know what that word holy means? Someone poured Ganga water on an idol of God and fecal matter came out? Kumar shouted. You keep polluting the river because you think Ganga is Ganga, she will carry everybody's sins. This is the river we worship, and look what you are doing to it every day. The court also ruled that the holy idols made of ecologically friendly material could be immersed in the Yuma River, a popular religious ritual. Now, this is kind of interesting because the Rockefeller Foundation, of which I can't encourage people enough to go spend some time there. Okay, they are one of the biggest creators of the templates. I mean, it was the Rockefellers that donated land for United Nations headquarters, which is on American soil, which is there to destroy the people and the nation. That's what it's there for. There's a book that came out after Our Common Future, the Groh-Brundtland Report, called Beyond Interdependence, and that book on the inside cover. Well, first of all, there's a foreword by Rockefeller, then there's a foreword by Morris Strong, and the meshing beyond interdependence, the meshing of the world's economy and the Earth's ecology by Jim McNeil, who just happens to be a Canadian, who is a huge player, a huge writer of this stuff. Very few people know who this guy is. They need to. But the book it is a Trilateral Commission book. Okay, and most people by now know something about the Trilateral Commission, and it's a foreign agency basically on American soil, and its job is how to take down America, and it's being taken down by the day. So the thing about the Rockefeller Foundation is, as I was reading some of their paperwork, and what they do is they work with scenarios. Okay, problem, reaction, solution, or the Hegelian deal. It's problem, reaction, solution. But the idea is to, one, find a problem or create a problem, and then find a solution for the problem. And one of the ones I was reading, they have scenarios for everything. So they don't say this is the solution, okay? What they do is they create these kind of like fictional scenarios built around a particular problem or non-problem, whatever it is, and then they stretch that out and they offer solutions, possible solutions for each of these scenarios they come up with. And one of the ones I read is very much tied to this story about the Ganges River, and it is a holy river to these people, but it's polluted, I guess, and so it's a story. One of these scenarios is a story: young Indian girl, who can look at the river, she can see the river, she can view the river, but she can't go to the river. The river is off limits. Because if of it, but obviously you can't go in it because, well, you're a human, and humans destroy the environment. And this is the same story about the Ganges River with this little girl. She understands that because of the environment and Mother Earth is so important that she understands why she can never go to the river. And that's just lunacy. But this is how they operate this nonsense. And all of these, there's lawyers. They're spitting out environmental lawyers fast, and you can spit out smarties, man. Okay? And there's big money in environment. And it's like a distracted driving law. You know, the cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket for distracted driving. You say, I wasn't distracted. Well, I was watching you, and in my view, you were distracted. Well, how do you? Where's your defense on that? There's no defense on that. The only defense you have is to say, well, how did you know I was distracted? Well, I was watching you. Well, then you're the one that was distracted, not me. Give yourself a ticket. That's logic, but they don't deal in logic. And this is the same thing with these environmental laws. You know, if environmental bylaw officer or something comes up and says, you know, we've determined because it says here that because of what you did or thought you might be doing, then it's reasonable to believe that would, if not today, down the road, cause some kind of environmental harm to Mother Earth. Well, how are you going to defend against that? Okay, so they write this up so you can't even defend yourself against it. And they're all going to rape you for your labor some more. They're just picking your pockets. You know, and you're going to have lunatics in your own neighborhood. You know, they gave so-and-so a ticket because he ran over that frog with the lawnmower, who he didn't. Well, he should have been more careful. Well, if everybody ran over the frogs, we wouldn't have any frogs, and the frogs would eat the bugs and mosquitoes, and then we'd be overrun. Oh my God, hang that son of a bitch for running over that frog. This is how bad it's getting. This is how bad it's getting, man. Anyways, the court has also ruled, environmental officials complain that he imposes unrealistic deadlines and makes unreasonable demands for data and information. If officials fail to show up in court, Coomer even issues arrest warrants against them. Okay? Now, I think it was in California, and this is several years back, because they don't want anybody out in the countryside. They all want it pinned in the cities. That people were having an extraordinarily difficult time. They would buy a piece of property and they're going to build a house out in the country because they don't want to live in the pit called the city. And they have to. They were being forced to write a scenario of their impact upon that particular environment over the next 20 or 30 or 40 years. You know, what is your water use going to be? You know, what are you going to use the land for? How are you going to fix this if we have a rainstorm or we have a drought? It was all stuff that there was no answers to be given to. And you had to answer all of this stuff in order to get a permit to put a well in or build your house or anything like that. So people were buying property that they could never build on, because they couldn't answer these ridiculous questions. And nor could the lawyers, nor could the building inspectors, but it's not up to them to answer them. It's up to you, because you're the one that wants to build it. Therefore, you're the one that's going to impact Mother Earth. Therefore, it's your responsibility to answer this and make the questions. So you can't answer them, and therefore you're not getting a building permit. And that's really light stuff compared to what's coming. That's really light stuff. The idea is that you cannot do anything on the land. Let's see. Sometimes the court orders officials to take action in 2 days when everybody knows that it's humanly impossible, said Raj, senior counsel, but the judge is pushing them to at least start the work. His goal is to shake up the system and shake down the people. The array of cases can be dizzying. A retired Army colonel petitions to stave what he called the last sacred forest around New Delhi. A resident asked the court to order the de-choking of trees by removing pavement tiles from around the roots. A man complained about trees being cut down to make way for an apartment building near the Taj Mahal, and a group of Buddhist lamas opposed to a hydroelectric project in the Himalayas is trying to save 10 black-necked cranes that nest there during the winter. So even though you need electricity, you can't build a dam because there's some black-necked cranes. We have the same thing here now, and I'm sure it's the same in Australia and Britain and America and everywhere else, where farmers are not being allowed to take their crops off, not because there are birds nesting in the field, but there could be birds nesting in the field. So the birds don't even have to be there. Just the possibility that they might be there is stopping farmers from pulling their crops when they need to pull them. And anybody who knows anything about farming, when you got the right moisture levels and you have the right weather, you got to go get that crop, because the next day you could lose the crop. Farming is a rather precarious business. I mean, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to have everything right to get the most out of the crop. And now we're going to pass these laws where you can't go get the damn crop. So if you lose your crop, well, it's not anybody's fault because you have your own, because if you hadn't planted the crop, then you wouldn't have had to take the crop off. And if it was just allowed to go back to nature, then the birds could nest when they wanted to, and we wouldn't have to bring in our inspectors to tell you can't take off your crop because there could or may not be a bird or salamander or whatever else that they have on their list on those lands. They don't even want people growing food on the ground anymore. I mean, they want to grow food in the city. Okay, I mean, there's all kind. I mean, I ran into that years and years and years ago. All this new age garbage, where we just rewild everything, and then we build these towers, and the water lands on the tower in tanks, and is filtered down through the building. And each layer of the building grows a different kind of crop in that. And instead of the farms feeding the cities are going to feed the cities. We don't need farming anymore, normal farming on the land where the nutrients are pulled from the soil and transferred to you who eat the crop, transferring the nutrients from the soil to you, as it's supposed to be. No, now they're talking about no earth farming and that. So, they're taking everything away from you that would foster anything healthy in you. But it's all about saving the damned environment, right? And when you get into that mind thought, it's not hard for these guys to envision and make up things, and that's what they do. They make things up. They make up a problem, and then they go find the solution. And the solution is always tying you down and sticking their hand in your pocket and pulling your hard-earned money out of it to feed them, who produce nothing. Okay, so we gotta, woe on to you lawyers, right? I mean, you guys are nasty. Let's see. Where was I here? Coomer can wield his power with a devastating swipe of his pen. The court has canceled a thermal power plant, an airport, and it has imposed penalties on officials who do not comply. But the general impression among activists is that although it has adopted an aggressive tone on everyday concerns such as pollution and littering, the court has been somewhat conservative on large infrastructure projects. In a developing country, talking about the environment is seen as a luxury one cannot afford. An activist with the Ganja Avon or the Call of the Ganges, the court tries to find the middle path between development and environment. He walks his tightrope almost every day. Well, again, because this is all corporatization, that's exactly correct. Depending who is building what project depends on whether or not that project goes ahead. And it really doesn't have much to do with environment. Okay, take fracking, for instance. Now, can't find too many positive things about fracking, but it's going on all over the place. How is that? I can't take my crop off because there could be a bird in the field, but you guys are in there fracking and cracking and poisoning wells and waters all over the place. How is that? Well, it depends who's doing it and what the corporation is behind it and who's making the money. Follow the damn money. Scolding a representative from a pharmaceutical company that dumped fluoride into a river in the southern state of Telangana. Coomer said, "We can seal your factory, but we are also conscious of the fact that it has economic consequences. People will lose jobs." In recent months, the National Green Tribunal has pitted against the government in an epic battle to clean New Delhi's air, which in 2014, according to World Health Organization, report deemed the dirtiest in the world. A petition to improve the air quality has ballooned into a high-profile trial that could test the limits of the court's power. In April, Coomer ordered a ban on all vehicles older than 10 years old in the capital. Residents reacted with anger. Long lines ensued at checkpoints along the city's borders. City officials said the order was impossible to enforce. NGT to put New Delhi out of business. Read a headline in the Pioneer newspaper. Well, they don't want anybody driving vehicles, okay? period. So it's all part and parcel of the plan. Government officials tried unsuccessfully to block the ban in court, but Coomer was undeterred. He went on to order traffic flow data and pollution monitoring equipment, and he questioned the state government's plan to buy 10,000 more public transportation buses. He even asked manufacturers where they can design a new kind of bus. With each passing day, the case has gotten flabbier as Coomer has widened the scope of including issues such as the quality of fuel, landfills, the burning of trash, automobile design, road accidents, and polluting power plants. Officials grumble privately that Coomer is overstepping his authority, but environmentalists support his tactics, saying the health of millions of residents is at stake. This is a very important battle, said Sanjay, can't remember to say his last name, the lawyer representing the petitioner. The government has been on a denial mode all this while, passing the buck from one department to another. With this trial, that denial mode has to end. This is the defining moment for environmental law. And it is going to be the most ruthless type of law that has ever been foisted on man, period. You think all these other laws that they had up till this point was a bit of a pain, an inconvenience, a cost? You've seen nothing yet. Once these environmental laws are about to be brought into place, they can make up any excuse for anything and just put negative to the environment on it, and you're screwed. And you got no defense. Because, see, this so-called law, which is not law, it's policy. So the policy states you can't do this. Well, you did that. And, I didn't know about that. Well, it's not our problem. You did it. But you can't prove I harmed anything. Well, we don't really have to prove it. It was legislated and just says you can't do it. And it has the color and force of law. That's why the cops went and give you the summons. That's why you had your ass dragged into this courtroom. And we made up these new rules and regulations on environment so that you have no defense. So pay up. You know, part of this whole environmental thing is to drive people out of their private homes and drive them off the roads and drive you back basically to pre-industrial times. As far as what your rights are and how you're going to get around, then they're going to turn around and provide you with government housing, government transportation, and you will live in what they want you to live in. They will eat what you want them to eat. You will transport yourself on their vehicles, and their vehicles will take you to your destination, although your destination isn't going to be your choice because your destination will be within a framework that they've decided of that's where you can travel. Welcome to the nightmare. And this is your future. And this is the future of your children and your grandchildren. Only it's going to be worse for them than it is for you. You grew up, even though you were held in servitude this whole time. You did have the ability to go out in nature and fish and go for a canoe ride or just simply go for a walk. That's all coming to a grinding halt. So I don't know how people are going to explain to their children and their grandchildren that somehow you're not allowed to get off the walk path that they provided you with, or that you can't travel where you want to travel when you want to travel. Now, I mean, they're indoctrinating the children in the schools into accepting this nonsense, but you know it's wrong. And we have to put the brakes on this somehow. You know, I mean, these guys know that everybody dies. That's a given. So, when you're old and you're sitting there and you're remembering the way things are supposed to be and you see the way they are, your children and grandchildren don't have those memories because they didn't live it. They only understand what they've been told. So will they miss the idea that they can go for a walk in the bush, or that they can get a plot of land and build a house to their design, or that they can get in their vehicle and just decide, I used to do that, my wife used to do that, and a lot of people still do it. You got a long weekend or something, you'd basically throw a dart at the map or whatever and say, let's go. We'll take half our time and we'll go that way, and then half the time coming back. See what we see. That won't be a possibility. So, what are we going to do? Just sit around and let these jackass lawyers and with the okay of the government do this to us? These aren't their lands. They don't own us. Although we accepted the fact that they own us, we seem to have consented that they own us. So, we just keep bowing down. So again, as I keep saying, who are you gonna blame? Who the hell are you gonna blame? You're gonna blame the lawyer? You're gonna blame the judge? You're gonna blame the bureaucrat? You're gonna blame the politician? Because if you blame any of those people, you ain't even close. The blame lies on each of our shoulders. Because through our silence, we consent to this stuff. And we have to stop consenting to this stuff. We have to learn to say no. Maybe I'll get a slingshot, and if I get an environmental bylaw officer come by and he's complaining I can't cut the Queen's grass, which is the Queen's grass in my yard. I don't own it. The Queen does. The corporation owns it. Maybe I'll get a slingshot. I don't think I need a license for a slingshot yet, did I? The guy says, there could be a frog here. You can't mow the Queen's grass right now. It'd be nice to have a slingshot in your back pocket and just happen to be a frog there on the ground somewhere. You just, pick up the frog, put him in a slingshot, whack right in the forehead of this bylaw officer. There's your frog, asshole, and hit the road. That might be a little over the top, but I can see it and I like it. I'm sure it would put a smile on my face because the look on the bylaw officer's face would be quite amazing, I would think. If you're a really good shot and he's yapping at you, like it says right here on this piece of paper. And while he's got his mouth open yapping at you, you got a little toad or something, right? You get a pretty small little toad and you just see if you can't hit his tonsils back in there with it. It'd be a lot of fun, We have to out these people. We have to show them that we're the boss, not them. We're ruled by paper. It says here on this piece of paper. Well, okay, that's nice, but how does that have any enforcement over me? It's a piece of paper. Well, yeah, but they wrote this down on here. Well, give me a piece of paper. I'm going to write something down on it for you. Take it back to them. Shove off. Okay, so now you have to abide by my piece of paper. War of the paper. War of the paper. You can bring me a piece of paper, I'll send you a piece of paper. You tell me I can't, I'll write back and say I can. It's ludicrous. This is like children. There's nothing adult going on here at all. This was all stewed up in the public schools from kindergarten on to keep people in this childlike state. And it seems to have worked. It seems to have worked very, very well. But we got to break that cycle somehow. Anyways, I went to get my coffee this morning. It was rather ridiculous because it's Sunday, so it was about 10 o'clock. No, actually, it was getting closer to 11 o'clock when I went to the store to get my coffee this morning. So they kind of know when I'm coming, so they were brewing me a fresh pot, which is always appreciated. And so I'm waiting for my coffee to drip out, and I'm watching all these people. It's just a steady stream of people. It's only a little corner store downtown. And I'm thinking, what motivates these people? At least 95% of the people that went to the counter, and it's a steady stream while I was waiting for my coffee, on a Sunday morning, around 11 o'clock, what motivates someone to say, I got to go to the store? Now, I could see if you need some eggs or some bread or some milk or whatever, or coffee, I could see you going to the store. But these people didn't need any of those items. They needed lottery tickets. And this boggles my brain. It's Sunday morning, Thanksgiving here. What motivates these people going, oh shit, I got to go to the store. Like it's getting on 11 o'clock in the morning. I got to go to the store. Well, do you need eggs or bread or something? No. I need lottery tickets. Well, do you eat these things? Well, no, but I need them. It's like a freaking drug. So when I went up to the counter to pay for my coffee, I'm asking the young gentleman there at the counter, and he kind of amazes me because he's 20 years old. He seems fairly sharp. He doesn't have dull eyes. And, I says, you going to university or college or anything? He says, no. Actually, I'm thinking of joining the Army. You're going to join the Army? What the hell would you want to do that for? I said, then you're working for the Queen. And he said, well, yeah, I hear that. So you know that everybody that's in the Army, even though you're supposedly in Canada, and Canada's supposedly an independent country, you understand that if you join the Army, you're an employee of the Queen. Well, yeah, and you do understand that the police are all employees of the Queen. Yeah, and the judges and the politicians are all employees of the Queen. Well, yeah. Now, he knows this stuff, which kind of amazed me, but he seemed like kind of a sharp guy. But I asked him why he was going to join the Army, and he didn't want to go shooting at people. He thought it was an opportunity, which a lot of people, I understand, join the Army for that reason, is because they do not have the financing, nor do they want to amass the great debt that is required, unless you got the money, to go through universities and that. And what he was thinking he would join the Army for is that he would like to be a doctor of some sort. And he thought by joining the Army, he could get himself into a position where he could one day become a doctor, which is a reasonable thought process, except, if you're going to be an Army doctor, obviously you're going to be helping those who are getting shot at or shot up, who are also in the Army. Which means you're, helping the ones that are hurting other people, which really doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. But, anyways, I asked him there this morning, I says, am I the only one that comes in here that doesn't buy lottery tickets? And he just smiled at me, nodded his head. He goes, pretty much. I said, this is insane. And he goes, it is, really. You know, people get up on a Sunday morning and, you know, it's like being a crack addict or something. You know, they're probably getting itchy, right? Probably starting to scratch and twitch a bit. You know, I need a lottery ticket. I need a lottery ticket. And, you know, propaganda works so well because sometimes I ask people why they do this, why they're constantly buying lottery tickets. I mean, the odds on winning are 14 million to 1 thereabouts. The odds of getting struck by lightning twice are basically the same as your odds of winning the lottery once. And, you know, if you're feeling that lucky, you know, go grab a steel rod and run out in a thunderstorm. You know, and when you get hit, maybe winner, winner, winner. So it's not logical that people are putting their hard-earned money down, and some of them put a gutload of it down on the table for those kind of odds, 14 million to 1. That makes no freaking sense at all. You know, if you want to gamble, you may as well go play blackjack. Your odds on winning are considerably higher, right? But then I think when you play an actual card game, I think there's more of a idea of responsibility attached to it than there is with these lottery tickets. But I don't know how many times I've had people say, you know, I says, you know, how's it going? Like, you winning? No. Well, I win $5 for a free ticket or $10. I won $100 once. Oh yeah. So you ain't even close to even, you know. Well, no, but this is why I love propaganda so much, you know. Properly laid into the mind, it's an amazing, amazing tool. The government wants money, your money. The government doesn't have any money, never did have any money, never will have any money, but they have the credit card. And so they have a unlimited credit card of which they're not responsible for. Talk about responsible government. Talk about responsible financing. They tell you if you get a credit card, you have to be responsible for it, okay? Because you have an obligation. If you're going to use a credit card, then you have an obligation to make sure that you stay on top of things. Whereas the government has the credit card, but they're not responsible for anything. Wouldn't that be wonderful if you had a credit card, you were given a credit card with basically a no-limit spending on it, and knowing full well that you're not responsible for it. Somebody else is picking up the tab. Welcome, government. They've got the credit card. They spend however they want, and you pick up the tab. And then you get mad at the government, and you hire a new so-called government, who the government exiting hands the unlimited use credit card to those coming in. And then they spend freely, and you're on the hook. I mean, how incredibly stupid are we? I mean, we just keep proving it to them. And we got to come to terms with this and put the brakes on it and just say no. Okay, you created the debt. You're responsible for it. Okay, you put us on the hook for it. You know, you hear these stories, oh my God, the way they're spending, you're going to bankrupt the children that come after us. Hell, they bankrupted the children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. Take it down the line as long as you want. It was designed that you can't get out from under the debt. It was designed that way. I mean, it's ludicrous. You know, here in Canada, they said they gave us responsible government. Well, I can't find anything responsible about the government. And who was it give it to us? I didn't ask anybody to give me anything. You gave us responsible government. How'd that happen? So you got your people together and you decided what this game was going to be played like, and you put your players in it and said, you gave us good responsible government. Well, you find me anything responsible out of government, I'd like to see it, because I've never seen anything responsible coming out of a government. It's just a corporate con game. And we have been mightily conned. And we got to come to terms with that. And it's so very, very simple. I mean, if you peel a few layers back, I mean, it's just right there in your face. You know, I was absolutely amazed. If I can find this, I may have mentioned this last night. I didn't get a lot of sleep, so you have to excuse me. Lark from Texas there did the show last night, and I had no idea who this guy was. And we talked, 5 o'clock in the afternoon for a few minutes, and then he did the show, and we ended up talking till it was almost 3:30 in the morning. It was pretty interesting because he was firing names and that at me that I didn't recognize, and I was firing names and stories at him that he didn't recognize. We're passing documents that I didn't recognize. I'm passing documents to him he didn't recognize. So we had a pretty fruitful conversation till about 3:30 in the morning, and that was really good because it's all about connecting the dots and getting new knowledge and whatnot, and possibly new directions to come at this thing from. So it was really, really good. So I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, and I was kind of expecting Santos to show up today, which it probably worked out well because I was quite tired, and I know I'm going to have to be on top of things to get out of Santos what I need out of him. And again, I don't hold any animosity really to anybody. I don't have much use for outright liars. I don't have much use for disinfo agents. It kind of bothers me because people are out there trying to find the truth. New people coming in and they get picked up in some of this nonsense, and without researching it, they just latch onto it and follow it and fall into the next trap. But some people have to go through that before they get it figured out. But anyways, yesterday morning, I may have mentioned this last night. Sometimes I wake up and I don't know why it happens. A bunch of years ago, I was trying to record a wind farm or wind noise, wind turbine noise, and if the wind's blowing, it tends to if you got a lot of ground noise, it tends to mask the sound a little bit. So you really to really get the effect of these wind turbines, you need certain conditions. And I know so many people have been run off their land, or not their land, it's the Queen's land, but run off of their property. They couldn't live there anymore, and all the propaganda coming from the government and the wind industry and that, calling these people crazy and all this stuff. And so I'd heard it once really bad at a gentleman's house, and it blew me away. I had no clue it could be that ugly. It just sounded like a huge dryer with work boots banging around. It was nuts. And but the conditions were right. There was no real wind on the ground, but there was still wind up on top, so there's no masking of the actual noise that these things are making. So, I remember this one particular wind farm near here, there was a cluster of houses, about 6-7 houses maybe, and I don't believe anybody's living in those houses now. I don't think anybody lives in any of those houses. And so, I woke up one morning about, 6:30, 6:45 in the morning on a Sunday morning, and it's just like it bolted upright. And my wife goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I have to go to the wind farm." "When?" "Now, right now." And, I'm kind of saying, why am I doing this? Just shut up and go. And so I grabbed my camera and that, and my video camera and that, and I went out to the wind farm, and it was perfect. Most obnoxious noise you ever want to hear. And this is what these people were submitted to, and that was one of the reasons they weren't living in their house anymore, other than the stray voltage driving them nuts. And, I woke up yesterday morning with Alice in Wonderland stuck in my head for some reason. And, what do I know about Alice in Wonderland other than, Jefferson Airplane did a song and they had a couple movies in that, but I never really paid much attention to it. And so why the hell is Alice in Wonderland stuck in my brain? So, I thought, well, I better go look it up and find out what's in there. And I was quite surprised. It's actually a political document. Which it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's not a children's story at all. But down through, I ended up, as I was going through this, I ended up going back and restudying William the Conqueror, because there's a reference to that in the storyline. And some politicians that were supposedly characters in the story, and it was very, very interesting. But so they have in this Wikipedia thing here, they have a synopsis of the chapters, and it's quite interesting. There's this part here. I've never read the book. I'm probably going to end up reading it. I hope it's not too big a book. But there's reference here to painting white roses red, because the queen, I guess, didn't like white roses, and somebody had planted white instead of red. And it turns out that is a reference to the War of the Roses. But chapter 12 I find quite interesting. Alice's evidence, it's called. Alice is then called, this is a very short little thing here, Alice is then called up as a witness. Well, let's go back up to channel 11, Who Stole the Tarts? Alice attends a trial whereby the knave of hearts is accused of stealing the queen's tarts. The jury is composed of various animals, including Bill the Lizard. The White Rabbit is the court's trumpeter, and the judge is the King of Hearts. During the proceedings, Alice finds that she is steadily growing larger. The Dormouse schools Alice and tells her that he has no right to grow, or she has no right to grow at such a rapid pace and take up all the air. Now, I find that interesting because when I was rebuilding this house that I'm in, it actually had ceilings that were quite low in it, 7'6" or whatever. I'm 6'4" or better, maybe 6'5", I don't know. So there was a lot of work to do in this place, so I tore most of it down except for a few walls. The walls that were left, I added a piece to the height of the walls so that I could have higher ceilings in here. So my ceilings now in the house are higher than normal ceilings, and then the ceiling in my living room is at the height of it is 18 feet high. It's a long living room. It's like 30 feet long. It starts off at about 8'6" or something, and it runs up to 18 feet. Now, I went to get the building permit, and it was given to me because I wasn't really, I'm just renovating this thing, no big deal. It's completely surrounded by trees. It's behind the other house on the property. You can't see this house from the road. I had building inspectors coming in and this and that, and the head building inspector, and I asked him, I said, this is how I'm going to build this back wall here, and it's cantilevered by the other roof lines and that, so everything's good. And he agreed, and then so put it up, and then another building inspector come along and said the head building inspector doesn't like that. Well, it's tough luck. It's there, and they ain't changing it. And then they came back again with another idea. They wanted me to collar tie it back to the back wall, which would really mess up my ceiling. And they wanted me to drill holes through the trusses and bolt collar ties back to back wall. I said, well, that's retarded. You're supposed to be a building inspector. You know you can't drill a hole through a truss, an engineered truss. You know that. So eventually, I told him to tell the head building inspector to come down if they have a problem. They best come down and explain what the problem is in person. So her and the chief building inspector and a pencil neck came down, and it was ridiculous because it was just like in this story, Alice. And I asked her what her freaking problem was. You know, I gave you the plans, you gave me the permit. What the hell is your problem? And she started, well, you have to get a minor variance. I says, well, no, that would have happened before I got the permit, unless you're completely incompetent, and I ain't backing up. So what happened was, I had an old electrician here, super nice guy. He's passed away since. He worked actually till I think he died when he was about 86, and he was working the day he died. This is a man who understands life, and he never at any time looked forward to, oh boy, my pension. I can sit in front of a TV. He's old school, as my uncles and that were. They all worked till they passed away, or shortly before, and they weren't hooked up to drugs and being kowtowed by the government and the medical profession and that. These were real men. And so he's running a new hydro line in, and we get into a bit of a screaming match here. So he's at the front house, and I'm at the back house, but he can see exactly what's going on. And so she said, the building inspector said, well, I said, what's your problem? You have the plans. Well, I didn't know you were going to raise the walls. I thought you were just going to straighten them. Why would I straighten them? Well, I thought they were crooked. Well, who the hell told you that? I mean, you have the plans. Can you read a plan? Incompetent freaking bureaucrat. So it turns out I need a minor variance, which I'm not going to go get, but why is it you're requesting I get one? Well, because this is what she said. When you raised the walls and raised the roof line, you actually took air and held it in your building, air that belonged previously, air that does belong to the municipality. And I'm thinking, you're out of your freaking mind. Well, that turned into a 3-month fight, which I eventually won. But my old electrician Ken, he was leaning against the back wall of the front house, and he's watching this scream match going on, and me kicking him off the land. And so I was kind of a little embarrassed, for Ken. And he's leaning against the house, and he says, are we done? Have they shut the job down? I said, well, they red tagged it, but we ain't stopping. And he kind of winked at me and smiled. And he said, I thought that's what you're going to say. But he said, what the hell's the problem anyways? And I said, apparently, when I raised the roof, I stole municipal air. And he goes, this is crazy. And it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So now here we have in Alice that she has no right to grow at such a rapid pace and take up all the air. Just like I have no right to raise a roof on my house and take up the municipal air. Alice scoffs and calls the Dormouse's accusation ridiculous, of which I did to the building inspector, because everyone grows and she cannot help it. Meanwhile, witnesses at the trial include the Hatter, who displeases and frustrates the king through his indirect answers to the questioning, and the Duchess's cook. So chapter 12, Alice's evidence. Alice is then called up as a witness. She accidentally knocks over the jury box with the animals inside, and the king orders the animals be placed back into their seats before the trial continues. The king and queen order Alice to be gone. They don't want her as a witness. So the king and queen order Alice to be gone. Now, that sounds like so many people that go to court and ask their questions and they get kicked out. Wait a minute, you told me to be here, and now you're kicking me out. Well, you're kind of asking questions that we can't answer, so you got to get out of here. So the king and queen order Alice to be gone, citing Rule 42. And if you've ever been in a court, they got a rule for everything, and if they don't have a rule for something, they'll just make one up. So Rule 42 is the rule that they're citing to tell Alice to hit the road. And that rule states that all persons more than a mile high must leave the court. But, see, now Alice could have bowed her head as a whooped dog that most people are and left the court. This is an important part of this story. But Alice disputes their judgment and refuses to leave. She argues with the king and the queen of hearts over the ridiculous proceedings, which most court proceedings are ridiculous, eventually refusing to hold her tongue. Now, I've been there, and that's actually quite fascinating, done properly. The queen shouts her familiar, "Off with her head." But Alice is unafraid. And that's the whole ticket. You know, fear of the queen or the king or the bureaucrat or the policeman or the politician or the judge is what they depend on. That keeps you in a place of servitude. But even the queen shouts off with her head, it doesn't affect Alice because she is unafraid. And once you lose the fear, everything changes. And I don't know how many different ways I can say it to people. Lose the fear. Because fear is what enslaves you. But losing the fear also is a place of responsibility, of which most people don't want. They don't want to be responsible. That's why the so-called government has such an easy time of controlling people. But Alice is unafraid, calling them out as just a pack of cards, which they are. It's a house of cards. You fear a deck of cards. Without your participation and consent, has no power. Now, if you've ever done this when you were a child, we used to do this in rainy days, you know, we would build these intricate houses, castles, whatever you want to call it, of cards. You can get quite intricate. You can build some pretty wild stuff with cards, you know. You can only build so much with one deck of cards, but you keep bringing the cards and you keep building. You can build some pretty impressive stuff. But it's all built on lies and deceptions, which makes for a very, very shaky foundation. Now, you can build this intricate thing and somebody could walk by quickly and the whole thing can come down. Somebody could come in the house and shut the door, and just the wind from the door will knock the whole house of cards down. That's how shaky this thing is. You know, and so why are we allowing this fraudulent house to control us like this? You know, we are in their house. Okay, we are in their house, and therefore we must obey by the house rules. Well, if you pull the bottom card out and the house falls down, then you obviously aren't in their house. And their so-called house rules disappear just like the house of cards itself did. There's just this flat thing on the ground, bunch of playing cards. So, you stand there and wonder, whoa, look at what they did, right? Well, once you pull it, it's just this little layer of nothingness. So I find this rather interesting because when I was going through some of the link-offs from this Alice in Wonderland thing, I found it absolutely amazing. It links over to a guy by the name of Desiree, I guess, or something like that. And it talks about Rothschild being voted in to the House of Commons or whatever, but then he couldn't take a seat because he was a Jew, so he just went back to London City, where the money boys and that hang out and the lawyers hang out, and just continue to work, right? So the influence from that into the so-called House of Commons, the House of Lords, is amazing, and it's just history. And it's time. They talk about New Age. We're entering a New Age. Well, New Age is the same as the Old Age because New Age is controlled by the same people who control the Old Age. So what we need to do is I don't want to call it a New Age, but we have to really, I don't know what you would call it, a new history, a real history. But it's our responsibility. All you got to do is look around. All you got to do is pick up a newspaper. Don't buy them, but you can pick one up. Just look at the headlines, right? Look at where they're taking us. And is that where we really want to go? Did our forefathers leave their homelands because they were happy in their homelands? No. They left because they were looking for freedom, because they didn't have anywhere they came from. Now, they were never really free. They got hoodwinked. But they tried, My understanding is the early colonies run the lawyers the hell out of there. They want nothing to do with them. Okay? Because the legal system, again, is amoral. And why would you want a bunch of amoral people making amoral laws to contain your freedoms or restrict your freedoms? That makes no sense. But eventually they weasel their way back in, and we end up in the same place they were before they left. Only this time, there's nowhere left to go. They can't go find somewhere else to go to look for freedom. Doesn't exist. So you got your back against the wall, right? You got your back against the wall. So you're either gonna push back, or you're gonna get continually squished against the wall. There's the old thing: an animal will flee or fight. They'll make a decision, right? And push comes to shove, I don't care how small the animal is. If you push him into a corner and you won't let him leave that corner, he will fight you. Because that's the nature. Flee or fight. Nobody wants to fight. Okay? I mean, there are some people out there who enjoy it, but in most cases, people don't want to fight. If you've ever been in a fight, even if you win the fight, you're injured. Even if you knock the aggressor or whatever out with the first punch, you're still going to have a sore hand. So you're gonna get wounded if you get into a fight. So, but it's flee or fight, and most people will do anything in their power to not get into a scrap, and that's admirable. But once you're cornered and you have nowhere to flee to, you're going to have to fight. Because if you don't fight, you're done. Now I have skunks around here and raccoons and whatnot, and my cats. Now my cats are they come in the winter, but basically they're out all the rest of the year, and even in the winter they're out, but they'll come in when they get cold, which is fair. But we have squirrels here and lots of stuff running around here. And we're right in town, but we're kind of really surrounded by trees and hedges and that, so it's a nice little kind of a place for animals. It's hedged on three sides, so they got protection from the weather and they can move about without being bothered. But we have skunks and so on and so forth. The cats don't bother the squirrels. I mean, the squirrels would come right up to the cats, and we had to kind of train the cats because they were kind of chasing the squirrels. And we said, no, let them be, right? They're not bothering you. Don't bother them. You've got enough food. You don't need to be eating squirrels. And they get along just fine. Now, we have raccoons around here, which don't particularly want, but, they're free to roam as far as I'm concerned. But our older cat, which is I think about 12, 13 years old now there's a very big coon that was out back, and I know that you could take the cat's head off if you wanted to, real quick. But the old cat is kind of what would you call it? The yard monitor, if you will. And he kind of keeps an eye on things around here. And so there's big coons out back, and if you ever seen a cat, how fast a cat's paws can move when he gets into it, is rather amazing. Quite dark, and as I was going up the sidewalk, I saw some white. I saw an animal, and I saw some white. Now our one cat is orange, and his white is extremely white. So I just saw patches of white, and I thought it was what we called a kitten, even though he's about 8 years old or more. He's more than that now. But anyways, so I see this white just off the sidewalk over in the grass, and I think, oh, it must be the kitten. So I kind of bend down a bit, and I call the kitten over. He's not really moving towards me at all, and oh, well, you being pissy or what? So I called it again. All of a sudden, I see this animal moving towards me really fast, and then it got right up to my feet, and then it kind of jumped up the air and kind of did a circle in the air and went back on the lawn. I go, what the hell was that? All about kitten. I said, that was really weird. So I called the kitten some more. Come here, kitten. And it come running at me again and did another up in the air and a circle, and then hit the ground and took off. And then, well, that wasn't a kitten. That was a freaking skunk. Now, did the skunk spray me? No. And have we ever had a skunk spray around here? No. We learn to respect each other. The cats don't bother the skunks. The skunks will walk right up to the cats, don't bother them. Same with the squirrels and that. Nobody's bothering anybody. Here's live and let live. And, I've done it. My wife's done it. At night, you're going to have a smoke or something, so we just open the back door, and sometimes you open the back door, and there's a skunk sitting there on the back step. And, unfortunately, too many people go, "Oh my God, it's a skunk!" And they get all freaked out and they slam doors and they make all kinds of racket and they get sprayed. Okay? Because you're being aggressive towards it. And this is what the government is very, very aggressive, but in a kind of a sublime way. And, if I back the skunk into the corner, the skunk is going to warn me before he goes at me, okay? I know this about the animals. He will warn me that I've got him into the corner, and he's not happy about that. And I'm not giving him a way out. Okay, I've cornered him. He can't see a way out. He would just like to leave, but I've cornered him. Now he's sitting there. I'd like to flee. I'd like to get out of this situation, but you're not giving me anywhere to go. So self-preservation states that I must now fight. And he will warn you that he's prepared to fight you, even though you're a hell of a lot bigger and a lot more powerful. And that he knows you can kill him. He's asking you to just let him go. Let my people go. And he will fight you to the death. Because it's called self-preservation. But man has been nutted, if you will, over the centuries, so that he doesn't get that anymore. Okay? He's become subjected to this government thing, that the government will look after me or the police will look after me and save my bacon. That's completely untrue. But that's what we've allowed ourselves to believe. You are against the wall. We're all against the wall. And there is nowhere to flee to. So we have to relearn self-preservation. But, it's more, it won't have the effect, like this self-preservation idea is kind of like the guys with the AK-47 saying, if they come to my house, kick my door down, well, I'll blast them away. Well, that's you against your enslavement. And you don't have the power to do that as an individual. This is just an example, quick example. I mean, and I don't know the guts of the Bundy thing, okay? I just know what I see and what worked is that if Bundy had walked up to the feds and said, screw off, they would laugh and they just went over and either shot his ass off or just picked him up and threw him in a bucket or whatever it was they were up to. Okay, so they have him against the wall and he got nowhere to go. So he can't win that fight on his own. He's overpowered. Now, even though he knows he needs to fight this, just like an animal you have cornered in a corner somewhere, the animal knows I have to fight. This is self-preservation. I probably am not going to win this because I'm overpowered, but I need to do this. It's flight or fight, and there's nowhere to flee to. So you got to fight, but he don't stand a chance. Okay, so when the other folks came and said no, now we got a different ball game. Okay, you got a bunch of cornered animals who do have more power than the individual cornered animal. Like if I cornered a muskrat, who, if you don't know, can get extremely freaking aggressive, especially if you get them cornered, they will fight to the death. Now, you can take out a muskrat. I mean, he's going to come at you, and you give him a good swift kick a couple of times while he's done. But if I had 15 muskrats cornered, just like at the Bundy Ranch or over here at Michael Schmidt's Milk Farm, if I had 15 muskrats backed up against a wall and had them cornered, trust me, I'm going to back down from these guys. Even though I've got them cornered, I don't want to tangle with these people. Because that group of people are in a moral position. They're fighting for their survival. And there's enough of them, they get hissing and gnashing their teeth in that. I got them cornered, but I'm thinking, do I really want to tangle with this? So again, that goes back to the blink. Somebody's got to blink. Somebody has to blink. So it's important that we as a group of people, wherever it is you are, you got to get to your neighbors at the local level and explain to them exactly what's going on, because they're cornered. They may not know they're cornered, but they're cornered. And together they have the power to say no. And they have the power to make the police, the bureaucrats, and the politicians blink. And that's how we get our lands back. That's how we get our neighborhoods back. Okay? Nobody wants to get into a scrap, just like the animal doesn't want to get into a scrap with you. But even the animal is intelligent enough to realize when he's cornered. And that animal is intelligent enough to understand the rules of the game. Walk away if you can. But once you're cornered, and you know you can't walk away, you won't find an animal that won't fight you. And that's where we're at now. That's where we're at. We got our backs against the wall. In a few seconds, I was in a meeting one time, Michael Schmidt was there, and we had a bunch of speakers and that there. And I think that was the first time I ever met Michael. And my first thought process when I met him was that, what are you in this about? Is this a moral fight or what is it? And he says, it's a moral fight. Good, let's get it done. Now, he's been fighting that for 21 years. Could have fixed it a lot quicker if people would have not been so sheepish or so nutted. But it's coming. It's coming. But Michael, he got a young guy, a fairly husky young guy that worked at a grocery store in Owen Sound, and he wanted to do a demonstration. And so he got the young guy to stand there, and Michael just went up to him and was kind of talking to him a little bit, and then give him a shove in the chest. And the young guy stepped back. And then Michael approached him and was talking a bit and gave him another shove in the chest, and the young man backed up. And after a couple, 3, 4 times of this, the young man found himself against the wall. And Michael just looked at him and said, why didn't you push back? Okay, where are you going to go now? I got you against the wall. And I can't think, that was brilliant. Why didn't the young man push back? Right? Because he's taught not to push back. it would be impolite to push back. You know, we might get in trouble if we push back. Well, every time you don't push back when you know you should have pushed back, you're getting yourself deeper into trouble. Till you're jammed up against the wall. Once you're jammed against the wall, hell, you can't even pull your arm back to take a shot at somebody because you're going to hit the wall with your freaking elbow. We're against the wall. And we got to push it back. And we better start doing it damn soon. Okay? We have this, I don't even know what you want to describe it as, a fictional evil film that is, encircled the planet. I don't care what you want to call it. It is definitely evil. It has killed hundreds of millions of people, innocent people, and we somehow keep turning a blind eye to all this stuff. We got to stop that. We really got to stop it. We have a responsibility to the children that are here, the grandchildren that are here, the forefathers that came here to try to get away from being jammed up against the wall. You know, they saw a way possibly not to get into this big scrap where they came from and just get the hell out of there and go start a new way, a new life, a life built on moral values and freedoms. But that didn't last long. And, there's nowhere left to go. So it's our fault if we lose this. And don't blame the politicians, and don't blame the bankers, and don't blame the lawyers. Okay? They built themselves a very sophisticated game board, and they were very intelligent when they did it. They did it for the most evil reasons. But we can't blame them because we've submitted to what the game board they gave us to play. It's the wrong game board. Okay? We got to pack that game board up and get a new game board. So, before you start bitching about the politicians and this and that and the other thing, again, I'll leave you with this. Go stand in front of that damn mirror and understand who's at fault here. And who's responsible here? Okay? It's our fault that we allowed this to get where it got to. We're the solution. Okay? We're the solution. We're responsible for the outcome. And if these people get what they want, we got nobody to blame but ourselves. And I don't think anybody wants us to end up, or at least the children and the grandchildren end up where they want to put us. And the children and the grandchildren are not in a position to push back because they're children. We are in the position to push back. And we better start doing it. And we got to get down on the local level, and we have got to alert our fellow neighborhood. We've got to get the knowledge of these people, whether they want it or not. Most people understand they're pushed against the wall. They're just hoping that the aggressor leaves them alone. Well, it ain't going to happen. You're all in the sights. Okay? Every single one of you. Just like they wiped out the frickin' buffalo. So, we live in very interesting times. We're all lucky to be here. And the question remains, what are you going to do now? That's I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope that wasn't too negative.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people that's in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they mix up rain. They burn the kids. No one thinks gun, trees, lie to your face.